Hi, I'm Doug Goldstein with Profile Investments. I work with people who live outside the United States who have US brokerage and retirement accounts. You may have heard that some of the major US brokerage firms like Morgan Stanley and Merrill Lynch and Wells Fargo and others have asked their clients to leave. They've said to them, if you have an address outside the United States, you can no longer be our client. That has recently picked up. And in fact, there was a news story recently that Morgan Stanley was kicking out clients who had below $5 million, and clients who had above $5 million with them were getting their accounts restricted. They couldn't move money in or out or do certain types of trades. This is not the kind of service that a client who has a lot of money with one firm would expect. And so I'd like to explain very, very briefly what's going on. We're seeing that many US brokerage firms have simply decided to quit the international brokerage business. Mostly, it seems to me, because the cost of compliance is so expensive. In order to oversee having clients outside the United States, there are licensing issues. There are issues with rules that are known as anti-money laundering rules. The companies in America are required to make sure that their clients aren't criminals, and they're simply not equipped to be able to do this. This is certainly a major problem. And for many of the companies, many of the companies, they've decided it's just not worth the money. A couple of years ago, there was an article that JP Morgan decided to throw out 50,000 client accounts. A year or two ago, Wells Fargo ended up saying goodbye to $40 billion worth of client money. You can see this is a major issue for these companies. And for them, it's just easier to walk away rather than trying to build the systems necessary to maintain those clients. What many people like to do is they say, no problem, I can just use the address of my brother or a friend who lives in the States. I spoke to someone recently whose brother lived in California, and he says it's no problem for me just to put his address as the official address on the account. So he did that. The problem, actually, there's a few problems with this. One of them is this can open you up to a potential taxation in the state of California or whatever state you choose to use. If you're saying I have an account in California, well, maybe California is going to think that you should be paying tax to California. No, I'm not a tax advisor. You should absolutely speak to your own tax advisor about this. But the ones that I've spoken to, in fact, I would say not a single accountant or tax professional that I've spoken to has advised his clients, oh yeah, just tell them that you live in America when you don't. So I'm a little bit hesitant to suggest that anyone even consider that model. A lot of people have said, how will they even know? Let's say I do use an address in the States, even though that's not really true. How's the brokerage firm going to know that I don't live there? And I think the answer to that is when you log into your account or if you e-sign certain documents, they're able to tell based on your IP address where you are. So if, for example, you're sitting in Israel or in Portugal and you log onto your account, they're going to pick up right away that you have that you're not in the States. So I think the bottom line is, if you're looking for a solution, you need to work with a brokerage firm or an international investment company that specializes in people who live outside the United States who want U.S. accounts. Now, this could be either U.S. citizens or not U.S. citizens. As the director of Profile Investments, our company sits in Israel, and we specialize in helping people in Israel, the Middle East, and Europe who want to have U.S. accounts, or for whatever reason they had a U.S. account. They don't even necessarily have to be American citizens. When you have an account in America, it might be a regular investment account, brokerage account, an IRA. Maybe you have a 401k in the States. Whatever sort of assets you have in the States, you should be allowed to keep your account there. The fact that the brokerage firm that you're working with no longer wants to deal with you, that's their problem. You need to find a company like ours, and there are other companies that specialize in this niche, companies that are licensed internationally, whose compliance officers understand what it means to live outside the United States. It doesn't take them literally months and months to open an account. This is one of the problems we've seen with a lot of major firms. They'll tell a client, well, maybe we can take your account, but we need to jump through the hoops. We need to have our compliance officers review every single thing about you before we're even willing to accept your account. I can tell you that just now I opened an account for a client who lives in Israel. It took literally within a week, the account was open. We were already transferring assets from his Morgan Stanley account into the account with us. And we clear everything through a US brokerage firm. It's not that your money is moving outside the United States. In fact, that could be a huge disadvantage to you. There's a whole different story. If you'd like to learn more about handling investments when you live outside the United States, feel free to go to my website, profile-financial.com. You can always send an email directly to me. My email address is Doug, D-O-U-G, at profile-financial.com. We specialize in helping people who live outside the United States maintain or open U.S. brokerage and IRA accounts. Thanks for taking the time to listen.